professionals, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome on a Tuesday night to a live showing of Loud and Nerdy on a live stream
Take two.
At 9 p.m. at 9:05. We're fashionably late. Welcome. My name is JW Colwell. I'm the host of Generation Movie on the Indie Escape Network, as well as the incredible Loud and Nerdy with my good friends Kyle and Jerry. And tonight, Father Christmas joins us, the Grand Poobah of the Indie Escape Network, Joe Ridgely. Joe, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I am excellent.
Your guest won. Your guest won. And then the A guest is Jeffrey Weissman, who is coming and visiting us tonight. He has a big show coming up, Orlando Summer Collectorfest, June 14th in Orlando, one day only. And you know, Jeffrey's been in a lot of great things: Back to the Future 2, Back to the Future 3, Pale Rider, Twilight Zone the movie, Saved by the Bell, so many things we can't list all of them. We would be here for 3 hours doing a podcast, but he's going to be joining us in a little bit. We're super excited to have him, and we're super excited to have Joe Ridgely with us. Joe, what is going on with you?
That's better.
You
black box over my face.
You threw Jerry into the comments. You just threw Jerry to the wolves. Just to the wolves, like right to the wolves.
I'll animate myself. People will know I'm here.
Why does Joe have a square? Does he have a teleprompter? I don't know. No, the square is
ding. Circle gets the square.
We're attempting. I'd love to do a Hollywood Squares. We're attempting to actually have the comments on the screen so Kyle can focus on what's third or nothing. Is that something? What is that?
For the second time?
For the second time. What is that? Yeah. I was trying to make it as natural as possible. I'm not going to gloat or anything. I'm just going to drink.
Raven.
Oh, no, please don't drink. Don't drink. So, Third or Nothing is actually a Puffs reference from, it was a Broadway show.
Thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Hufflepuff, Third or Nothing, because they always came in third place. But it's also, acknowledging that, yes, Karate Kid did come in third place 2 weeks ago.
By about 7 million.
By about 7 million. Not that much.
Right, the exact amount of money I would say that they made from the big theater houses, the IMAX,
horrible IMAX, yes. But
yeah, I mean,
I enjoyed the fact that that didn't follow the standard script. It took an hour to get to Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio.
Didn't you think it was a bait and switch? Honestly, if you're going to see Karate Kid Legends, do you really expect Ben Wang to be training Pacey for an hour of the movie? Honestly, come on now. Be honest.
No, and that's what I like, though, because it wasn't what I expected. Hollywood actually gave us something different. It didn't give you the old cookie cutter movie.
Bullshit. The last 34 minutes of the movie are Karate Kid in small dilute forms.
They did the same thing with that Godzilla movie, the first one. It was like 2 hours, and then Godzilla shows up for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Also, again, I looked down at my watch, 53 minutes for Jackie Chan to show up. And let me tell you, this is a personal opinion. You're not doing Ralph Macchio any favors whatsoever putting him next to Jackie Chan. You're not. You're completely destroying Ralph Macchio. Right now, I don't know Ralph Macchio. I know Joe has had experiences with Ralph Macchio, but what I would say is Ralph Macchio on screen next to Jackie Chan is like a can of sardines next to an actor. It's not good. It doesn't go well. And other than that,
a slice of Miyagi dough pizza.
But do you have stuffed crust?
But wait a second. But that's the other thing, Kyle. You're such a big fan of Cobra Kai. This isn't a bait and switch. You weren't expecting Cobra Kai stuff?
No.
You weren't expecting any Cobra Kai. No mention
No.
of Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai is 3 years in the past. None of
I
it.
wasn't expecting anything because it was in New York. It's a different coast.
Okay, but you knew
At
Machio was
most-
coming. Machio's on a different coast. Shut up.
But in the
Machio's on a
trailer, it
different-
shows them going to get Machio from California.
Yeah, and then they don't do that. That's not even in the movie. They could have extended it out to an hour and 40 minutes. I just think it's a bait and switch. I also think it hits all of the beats of a Karate Kid movie without any of the digestible elements. Like the thing that makes the original Karate Kid great and the thing that makes Cobra Kai great is that the villains are well defined, right? The villain in this movie is boring. He was boring, Kyle. He was like a bully who was beating up adults. Like he was boring, and we never learned why the guy who was running the dojo was so in charge of him. Like, I don't know. It's one of those things.
He owed him money.
All right,
No,
guys,
no,
I'm
no.
afraid I have to interrupt. I apologize.
What are you doing?
The voice of God.
He's right here. It's not the voice of God. He's right here tonight.
Our
Oh,
is
It
here.
is God.
Oh yeah, Jeffrey's here. Okay, so this is good. You want me to do the welcoming? Let's do
I
the
didn't know
welcoming.
JW was in a first name basis.
Well, I tease our guest. Mr. Weissman, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. We just lost him. I blame Kyle for not calling him Jeffrey.
I like to make an entrance. I'm making an entrance.
Yeah, that was an impressive entrance, sir. Welcome
Oh,
to the
very
show.
good.
We're happy to have you.
I'm happy to be here. I have to tell you, Ralph Macchio was offered Marty McFly, and he
Yes.
turned down the role.
Yeah, him and Stoltz are the two big actors that kind of like
Well, see,
kind of
Howell
get
was also
they got
offered-
passed over once the
also
Family
offered
Tie
McFly.
schedule got fixed.
What were they thinking?
I think Macchio's fine, but I like Marty is a special kind of something. I mean, is that the movie you get the most requests and just talking about like questions in your life?
I answered Karate Kid questions all day.
I meant Back to the Future, Mr. Weissman, because I'm not allowed to call you Jeffrey because that's what I got yelled at by my co-host.
Did
Hi,
you say
Jeffrey.
Mr.
Love the glasses. Yeah, we can
Mr.
see.
Mr. Weissman, that's cool. Pizza Hut sold these when Back to the Future Part 2 came out, 89 for $1.99, I think, something like that.
With a pizza, you had to buy a large pizza.
Yeah, and
You had to buy a large pizza
They're worth $30 now.
because they had the pizza dehydrators, right? The Pizza Hut dehydrators were one of the things in your house in the
You guys-
estate.
It took us a few days to shoot that one scene.
Yeah, because you're upside down, right?
Well, it was mainly because they wanted the pizzas to look perfect when they came out. We had 4, 5, 6 gals behind the set making pepperoni and pepper pizzas constantly, and the soundstage smelled like pizza for 2 days straight. I don't think anyone wanted to eat pizza for a month after that.
Well, that's the kind of thing where I like movies a lot. I have a
the pizza get it together.
well, the pizza brings everyone together, and then you realize you don't want to eat Pizza Hut pizza. It's just what it is.
Wow.
I have a question. I was in looking through your IMDb, and we did research all week, and I have a question that's kind of like an in the weeds question. So in your career,
I can't
I like. Yeah, I try to imbibe as little as I can. You work with
lightweight.
Clint Eastwood and Robert Zemeckis. How different were the shooting styles of those two directors? Because Zemeckis is rumored to be like into improv and okay with like changing things, and Eastwood is the type of guy that like, I have a script, I just need you to hit your marks and read the lines. So I was just curious, was there a big difference between those two directors?
It sounds like you know. No.
I'm asking.
There
You've had first-hand experience. I have not.
There was a great similarity in that they both have crews that think ahead of them, that they want to keep their job. They want to pay their mortgages. So they're a few steps ahead of either Clint or Bob Z. And both Clint and Robert Zemeckis both cast brilliantly. They cast really capable, good ensembles, and they both kind of sit back and solve problems as they arise. Though the one difference is that Clint would shoot rehearsals, and I think he got that from Don Siegel, who shot the movies, and I think Don Siegel got it from John Ford, the old Western director. Shoot the rehearsals, because when an actor hears action, their shoulders go up and they're self-conscious, and it's not as natural. There's a naturalism. My most intense scene in Pale Rider, after Daddy Spider gets shot, and we got to go out there and cry over his body. It took us 3 days to shoot that one scene.
Wow.
And
that is
the final cut where you see me crying over Daddy's body. That was a rehearsal. Where I actually, Clint wanted to, we got to get through this. It's taken us 3 days, and on the first day, what was it? There was snow on the ground, but Doug McGrath, who plays Spider, he's in sunlight, and then the second day he's doing the coverage of all the deputies coming out and shooting and making Doug Spider dance, and every time there was gunfire that affected Doug's boots or pants or wherever, they had to do a complete costume change to start again, to do the next take. So it was very tedious. The second day, we were in a blizzard. We shot, I don't know if it was the art director or Bruce Surtees or Clint, someone decided that building that new town on the top of that mountain outside of Ketchum Valley, Idaho, wherever Bruce put his camera, he'd have the White Cloud, the Salmon River, or the Sawtooth Mountains as a backdrop. And really, Pale Rider is breathtakingly beautiful because it is a beautiful Western
in the make, like you were saying, in the make of the John Ford Westerns. It looks, like the Monument Valley cinematography, beautiful and big.
And so we had to, the editor did, I think it was I'm not sure if they're husband and wife. I think there was a pair of editors on it who did brilliant cutting, because if you look at that whole sequence of the deputies coming out, Richard Dysart's character, LaHood, looking out from behind the curtain, and the brother and I, Chuck LaFont and I, with Richard Hamilton and Fran Ryan in the Mercantile, and then come out to Doug McGrath, Spider, getting drunk and calling LaHood out. The cutting builds the tension, and it also it deceives you that there is sunlight and snow mixed in the shots. You'll see it'll cut back. The brother and I come out going, "Daddy," and we're in a blizzard. We're in the snow. It cuts back to Daddy, and he's in sunshine. Boys, you get back. And so Clint was done with the scene. He said, I'm done. We got to the third day where we're going to finally get to Daddy's body, and there's no snow on the ground. So they bring in the snow making machine with the oil-based snow.
It was the soap-based one.
The soap-based oil. It was slippery as hell. That's all I remember. It was friggin' slippery. And we discussed where Chuck was going to go and where I'm going to go, etc. And so it's a rehearsal now. We're shooting a rehearsal. And Chuck goes to where I'm supposed to go. So you see me, if you look at it closely, I shift my weight and I go to where Chuck was supposed to go at Daddy's head. And I slip on the oil-based snow and nearly kick poor Doug in the head. My boot, I see his hair move like that. And I'm like, oh, shit. But I got to keep
That's impressive what you just did. Somebody mentioned
he would have been fine. He got shot in the head.
He got shot in the head. It was good. Somebody just mentioned Ken McKernan, one of our good fans. if they ever make a David Crosby biopic, Jeffrey is the man for the role.
There you go.
I had this look at going up to Calgary Fan Expo recently, and the guy up at the immigration said, "Oh, what are you trying to be, David Crosby?" Perfect, you got it.
You got it. That's exactly what I'm going for. That's what I'm going to Canada.
I am.
I wish I could sing that well. No, I had a beard up until 2 days ago. I shaved this because I'm growing it out to play Mark Twain. I did.
You're playing Mark Twain.
Yeah, I played
that
Twain
isn't.
2 days ago. I played Twain today. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I have a question about that. That's an interesting thing. I was reading about it.
Let me just wrap up the
sure.
the last bit. So when you're watching Pale Rider and you see me
People
crying
slipping?
over Daddy's dead body, first of all, with the wind chill factor on the top of that mountain, it was 10 below. So it was freezing cold, and I knew I was crying. I knew I had tears, but they were freezing in my eye. And we had just come off of a huge blizzard. This was the heaviest scene that we were shooting after being shut down for 3 days due to a blizzard, and everyone was partying, being on per diem. You know, Chris Penn went off the wagon. All sorts of silliness and mischief was going on for 3 days of playing Trivia Pursuit without sleep. Anyway,
Trivia Pursuit. Okay.
I was like, oh my god, I gotta cry. Sober up. So we were shooting this thing, and we're shooting the rehearsal. I almost kicked poor Doug McGrath in the head. Chuck didn't hit his mark. I'm doing my mark. I know I'm crying. I keep it all in character. I keep it alive. And as soon as I hear Clint say, "Cut, let's move on," I go, "No." And it was the only time during the 6 weeks of whatever we were shooting, I got into Clint's face. And I said, "Clint, Chuck didn't hit his mark. I almost kicked Doug in the head, blah, blah, blah." And he paused, and he thought about it in a moment, and he said, "No, we'll just cut from your face." And that's when I knew I had the close-up. And I was like, I'm not going to argue with that. And I walked away.
That sounds perfect, Mr. Eastwood. That sounds perfect, Mr. Eastwood. That's perfect. You know, that's a great story. So
like
Twain,
are you going to go into town after? I think that's such a good idea after what happened last time.
I loaded a picture of Twain on here. Him as
yeah,
How the heck is it?
I'll tell you
it's
the
right
thing
there.
I only got that part by accident. It was Chris Penn. You know, Sean Penn's very talented little brother. God rest him. He was just too hard on himself, I think.
A little bit.
Chris met Clint at a Malibu party and said, "I want to do a show. I want to do a Western with you." You know, and I met the writer of Pale Rider while we were shooting, and he said they've been trying for 10 years to get Clint to do that Western. And Warner Brothers finally threw him enough money in a new bus, and you know, you can direct it too. And Clint sent Chris Penn the script, and Chris threw it back and said because Clint offered him Eddie Conway.
Oh,
and Chris said, "I don't want to play it. I don't want to play a good guy. I want to play a bad guy." Wow. So Clint put him into the LaHood Jr. and moved Chuck, who was playing Teddy, into Eddie. And then luckily I had an agent that asked the casting director, I think it was Lauren Lloyd over at Warner Brothers, "What do you got that's not out in the breakdowns that the agents get to see what's casting that, you know, I might have someone for?" And she described this character, and Paula, my agent, said, "You got to see Jeffrey Weissman." And I went in, and I knew I had to cry on cue for my audition. And you know, I've studied all sorts of different types of techniques of Meisner and Strasberg, the method, and Zen, just let it happen. And I knew that I was going to be put on tape to Clint in Idaho from Hollywood, and Fritz Mans, the producer, put me on tape. And I had a lock of my grandmother's hair in my pocket, and she was the only one in my family who encouraged me. He said, "Darling, my parents didn't want me to be an actor. It was a horrible business, they thought." And yes, they were right. But nonetheless, she was like, "Don't listen to them, darling. If you want to be an actor, you go right ahead and do what your heart dictates." And I loved my grandmother for that. And I had her lock of hair in my pocket. And I didn't need anything, the fantasy charging, any of those techniques. The tears came naturally. Fritz sent the tape, and 2 days later I was on an airplane headed to Idaho to shoot Pale Rider.
Did you do two tears from both eyes, or did you do the Spencer Tracy, the trick with one eye where you're the old Spencer Tracy trick?
It's a mad world.
Yes.
I think I had the tears from both eyes.
Okay. I'm always fascinated about when they used to interview Spencer Tracy, and he's like, I can emote with just one eye, and they used to make fun of him for it. Katharine Hepburn used to make fun of him for it. Like, who only cries from one eye, and Spencer Tracy's response was, I can do it because I'm an actor. Like, that's acting. Real people don't cry from one eye.
I was coaching. I was coaching a kid, a young actor from Dallas, who I met at the Dallas Fan Con last weekend before last, and it was on his resume. Can cry on cue. I said, I've never seen an actor put that on their resume. That's quite unique, and I hope that works.
I just think it's a lack of talent for actors right now, Jeffrey. Is where we got to get what we can get.
I see a lot of questions about Twain and Crispin. Which one should I answer?
Okay, let's do this first. I want to ask about Mark Twain. How do you go portraying what is considered to be one of America's most prolific writers? I think this is a great question. Also, this particular American is beloved by actors, right? Actors love Twain. I know you have a one-man show. Hal Holbrook was very famous for doing a one-man show. Val Kilmer at the later stage of his life was doing a one-man show. What is it about Twain for an actor that is like catnip? What is it, Jeffrey?
Well, for me personally, my journey started by falling into playing Twain. I was referred to a project that was casting, what was that, 2008, 2012? It was a dramatization of his trip on the first commercial cruise line out of New York, with a trip to Europe and a highlight visit to the Holy Land. And Twain talked 5 different newspapers into buying the $2,000 ticket in 1865. $2,000 in 1865. The ticket was quite a bit. And a lot of big celebrities supposedly were going to go on this cruise, and they all backed out at the last minute. And it was mostly pious priests and pastors whose congregations paid the ticket for them to go and bring back relics from the Holy Land. So Twain was the only celebrity on it, but his 5 newspapers that paid the ticket, he was writing weekly articles to them for publication. And it was in essence, the very first kind of American voice of travelogue, an American voice about what it's like in Europe and what it's like in the Holy Land. And he knew this. When he got back from the trip, he bought back all those articles and wrote his first book, edited The Innocents Abroad, or The Pilgrim's Progress. And that became the best-selling book during Twain's lifetime. Not Huck Finn, not Tom Sawyer. It was The Innocents Abroad. Why? Because the guy distributing the book had a fleet of door-to-door Bible salesmen, and everyone already had a Bible. And they said, "What else you got?" "Well, I got this thing by a guy named Mark Twain," and people would buy that. Anyway, so that's how I started playing Twain, by doing that, and it was guerrilla warfare. It was guerrilla filmmaking. I went and we shot in San Francisco on the boat, and outside of Los Angeles at Velasquez Rocks for the desert with the Arab tents and everything, and the feasts, and then the producer, director, and me went to Jerusalem and shot kind of guerrilla shooting at the Wailing Wall, at Jesus' tomb in the Holy Sepulchre, and me in the Damascus Gate. And things happened just because I would say, "Let me go handle this," and I'd go to an Israeli guard with a machine gun or AK-47, and say, listen, we're from Hollywood, and down here at the bottom of Damascus Gate, it looks like a flea market that's very modern, and I'm supposed to be 1865. If I could just sit in that window up there, writing, please, we just want a shot of this for our Hollywood movie that we're making. And I'd pull out a $20 bill to bribe the guy, and he pointed his machine gun at me, his AK-47, whatever it was, and said, "Put the money away."
What are you doing, What are you doing, Jeffrey? You got to be careful going abroad. What are you doing, buddy? Jesus.
I had like 3 different miracles happen during this shoot. At the Wailing Wall, they don't allow cameras. And I said, get past the demarcation line with your biggest 200 millimeter lens, whatever. I'll walk very slowly. And they got these shots of Twain at the Wailing Wall. Just all these different things. And it's on PBS. It's the streaming. It's called now Dreamland, Mark Twain's Adventures in Jerusalem. And it took many, many years to finally get finished because it didn't get finished. They wanted Robin Williams to narrate it, and Robin got sick or what have you, or they ran out of money, whatever. Then they finally got Martin Sheen. Martin Sheen is the narrator of it, and I play Twain in it. But it started my Twain journey. I started doing Twain at Living History events, and I learned that he was, through his life, this was actually a Back to the Future event that I played Twain at in Columbia.
That's amazing.
And the thing is, he was on the wrong side of many controversies in his life. He signed up for the Confederacy. He was actually a soldier in the Confederacy for 2 weeks when him and his buddies came upon a Yankee soldier that had been shot. They were like, "We're out of here." And Twain hid out at his brother's until he could get out on a coach to go west in 1862 to be an assistant to his brother Orion, who was a treasurer of the Nevada Territory, or the new state of Nevada. So he was on the wrong side of slavery. He was on the wrong side of women's rights. He was on the wrong side of so many issues early in his life. And if you read his early journalism, he's kind of an asshole. But he's trying to be funny. He's being a satirist and so on and so forth. He even borrowed the name Mark Twain. That was not Sam Clemens' original nom de plume. He waited till the guy who was writing with that died or retired, and then he got it and started on the territorial.
So like a little Dear Abby.
Okay, I'm Mark Twain now. That's it.
He's just a fascinating figure, right?
Yeah.
It's just he's one of the more fascinating figures. Saw him at the Back to Reunion Future reunion at Schiller Theater 3 years ago. Gabe is a host on our network as well. Gabe is one of our good hosts. He hosts the show on Wednesday nights.
So you know that.
Sorry, plug for Gabe.
Okay.
Tomorrow night,
10 p.m. He's got Frankie G on. We could have gotten to it later. We would have been fine.
It gave me a chance to catch my breath.
We like plugs. We're big into plugs here, Jeffrey. We like plugs.
I got a plug. I'll pull it out now.
I'm sitting on 2 of them. It's amazing.
It's okay. We got your plug too, Jeffrey. It's all good.
The one-man Twain show that I've got that I'm writing and developing is about his contradictions and his evolution. His wife hit him over the head about women's rights. His daughter hit him over the head about animal rights. His learning about how horrible slavery was turned his attitude around, and he became an advocate against America imperialism, and actually, fought the government, Teddy Roosevelt, over San Juan Hill, and
he's somewhere spinning in his grave, Jeffrey.
I'm telling it like it is. He liked the truth.
Oh no! I mean about where we're at American-wise right now, like in this moment.
Absolutely.
In this moment.
What a mess.
But so he's kind of the other question that came up is the Crispin Glover question.
Sure.
It's such an amazing question, and this is the way I would like it asked to you. I'm going to ask it. So, when you get rid of somebody that is so toxic, how is the actor treated that's replacing the toxic actor? Because Glover, Back to the Future is one of my favorite movies of all time, and Glover was great in the role, but he was completely hated by everybody on the set.
Well, not completely. There were a few people like Leah who was
felt
rather
bad for his awkwardness.
Well, yeah, I worked with Crispin on a film at the American Film Institute in 1983 with Dan O'Herlihy, and I thought he was fascinating.
This Leah Thompson.
And I exchanged phone numbers with Crispin because I wanted to stay in touch. I was starting to work and co-star in projects like Twilight Zone movie and bit parts and Johnny Dangerously and Crackers that Louis Malle directed and such. And I wanted to stay in touch. I really liked Crispin's leather beetle boots, his Italian boots. I wore them too. Yeah. And when in '85 Pale Rider was coming out, I wanted to see what the summer competition was. So I went and saw Back to the Future. And I was already a fan of Mike and Chris and Leah's. I got cast in a film with Leah and Tom Cruise called All the Right Moves. My part was written out of it just before it went into production. Anyway, then Crispin comes on, and he was fantastic as George. He was phenomenal, and I called.
It really was. It's a great performance. It's history, though, the behind the scenes stuff of how the fight that led to your casting, though, right? I mean, yeah, well, it's the stuff of legend, like a Hollywood legend.
I can set some of the legends straight here.
Okay, that's great.
That's I guess my goal these days. The
setting facts straight. Yeah, you're doing that with Twain too.
While we were shooting, I was told first that I was going to be his photo double. I even called Crispin and left him a message saying, "I need the work. Say a good word." My wife at the time was having our second child. I needed to qualify for my health benefits, and he didn't call back. But I met with assistant directors that led to casting auditions and then prosthetic makeup fittings and a body cast fitting for a special effect and a wig fitting. And then I screen tested in the young George makeup. And I remember hearing Dean Cundy, the wonderful Dean, asking Bob Z.
Director of photography, for everybody who's wondering who Dean Cundy is.
He shot all 3 Halloween films.
Yes.
Jurassic Park, Apollo 13.
The Thing. Yes.
And
he's
a great sense of humor. One of the best sense of humors ever. You should have him.
One of the great director of photographies of all time.
And
cinematographers.
And Bob Z says, "What do you think, Dean?" And Dean says, "I think we got Crispin without the trouble." What do you mean by that? What the hell does that mean? And I was having a strange time as it was. Dick Tracy, Warren Beatty's Dick Tracy was shooting in the studio next door, and here comes William Forsythe as flat top in his strange makeup. I'm going, "What the heck?" And he's looking at me going, "What the heck are you supposed to do?
What are you doing? Yeah, are you in Dick Tracy too?"
So I started hearing that Crispin was out, that I was going to be George. And then I read in Variety and the Hollywood Reporter, Crispin had scheduling conflicts with another project, and I was like, "Well, wait a minute, how are they going to do this without him?" And I thought they're going to need George at multiple places at the same time. What the fuck is going on? And they called it the 11th hour.
Jeffrey, they're going to do it with you, Jeffrey. They found you.
Yeah,
they were rehearsal shots.
And little did my agents know, and they didn't negotiate my billing. I went to Zemeckis, second day of shooting. I said, "Bob, I had a shared title card. I co-starred with Clint in this. I co-starred in Twilight Zone movie with John Lithgow, and so on and so forth." And he thought about it for a minute and said, "I won't give you a single card, but I'll give you a shared title card." And not less than 5 minutes later, Neil Catton and Bob Gale come running over to me. "What are you doing talking about your credit with the director?" I said, "Well, it'd be a step backward. You don't talk with the director." I said, "Well, he agreed." And luckily, Bob Zemeckis stuck to his guns and his agreement, his word. So I started hearing things because I knew things were weird. As soon as I showed up, the first things we were shooting was the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. And first thing that I come face to face with Mike Fox, and he says, "Oh man, Crispin ain't gonna like this." I was like, oh shit, what have I got myself into? And then every time Zemeckis is calling action for the kiss or us dancing, he's saying Crispin. And I'm going, wait a minute. I have to go for
Jeffrey. It's Jeffrey.
I'm Crispin, I'm Jeffrey, exactly. So then he starts going, Leah. and it was very awkward. But by the end of the first week of shooting, I'm sharing a beer with Mike in his trailer and telling stories, and things are starting to relax. They get resigned that Crispin is not a part of it, and I'm not really knowing that Crispin didn't give permission for the use of his life mask in my makeups. I figured, Universal always paid the licensing for me to play Stan Laurel, Charlie Chaplin, Groucho Marx that I played on the tours. They always paid their estates or families. And, Crispin called me when part 3 came out and said, it wasn't fair what they did. And I was like, what did they do? They said, well, they mixed your acting, your footage with close-ups of me from part 1 to fool people. I said, well, you agreed to that, didn't you? And he said, no, they're offering me scale, what I got paid for 1 or 2 days work that on the original shoot. I said, that's screwed up. That was the largest grossing film of 1985, so then he said that he didn't get permission for his use of his life mask. And I was like, that's not right. So I gave him my stories. I gave him my photos. And that's when he went and pretty much got his settlement pretty quick. He deposed everyone. I was deposed 2 days, 1 day for 9 hours, 1 day for 8 hours. It was pretty hellish, the case, but I think Universal saw they were not going to win this case. And they
it's one of those Hollywood, urban legends that you hear about. Like,
okay, so actors, I got to settle the legend. Here we go.
Go ahead.
While I'm doing it's cut from the film, but George in part 2 gets to spin from being upside down for pizza.
Yes.
And it's in the bonus material. Look it up. And I'm in this body cast to do this special effect. And Spielberg comes up to me and says, so Crispin, I see you got your $1 million after all. So that told me that Crispin was holding out for $1 million. Then, I'm hanging upside down, and one of the crew members says, all this torture hanging upside down was meant for Crispin. And I was like, well, why? And it wasn't until a couple of years ago, I heard that Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale got really sick and tired of Crispin not hitting his marks, that he would either under or over.
So they put him in one spot where he was fixed and stuck there.
That's what I heard that they had to do from time to time.
That's the rumor.
So
that it was torture, and then he was meant because he was there was always talk of Crispin being a twitchy person, like just kind of a movement person.
He was very into his role. He was very intense. He liked exploring his physicality. I could see that from his other work and
absolutely
the improv tapes that they gave me of screen tests and stuff. So they agreed, why don't we have George in this ortholev of the future running on a track that goes from outside the front door through the living room, through the TV room, and into the kitchen. That way we can control his movements, and he'll always be in frame and on the mark
where we need him. Yeah.
And that's why I got to do it. and I should have at the time negotiated stunt pay because it's a stunt. So
I mean, if you're hanging upside down for a good portion of the day, I would imagine it was.
You even had to fix the toupee.
It was difficult. Yeah.
They didn't like getting me down. Zemeckis said, is there any way we can not have to get him down in between takes? And so Don Elliott, the wonderful Don Elliott effects man from ILM, he built on the top of a ladder a board with a mat on it, whatever, would at the end of a take say, Jeffrey, do a sit-up. And I'd do a sit-up and they'd slide it underneath me and I'd lean back and I could rest. And then everyone would go off set and have a coffee while I'm there on set alone, twiddling my thumb.
Well, also intended for Crispin, probably. I would have, we're going to leave Crispin there with a board under his back. Was working on that movie, everything, like, was working on the Back to the Future movies as pleasant as it appears to be for people watching it? Like, or or were they kind of like a grind? Were they a little bit of a grind, the second and third ones?
Oh boy. Well, as you know, Michael
I asked good questions, Jeffrey. I asked good questions.
Michael was shooting the last season
of Family Ties
during the day, and we only had him at nights and on the weekends. And when we had him, we were constantly shooting. There was one week we had him actually several days, and there was a 19-hour, a 21-hour, and a 26-hour long day in that same week. And I even asked him, Mike, when do you sleep? And he said, in the limo in between the studios. I was like, oh
yeah,
God.
it was
we were all
run.
very tired. But the thing was, they knew, first of all, this was going to be a big hit because the first one was a hit. And this was the same crew, pretty much, the same cast, pretty much. And everyone loved each other and working with each other. And there was this deliciousness of discovery and harmonious work, everyone working their tails off. And it was wonderful that way. And as tired as we all were, it was very exciting to be there. And the art direction was magnificent. You guys didn't you didn't get to see a fraction of what Edward Ives and company designed and built for that production. The stuff in the kitchen and the stuff in the living room, you only see glimpses of a few of those things. It was really remarkable. And people always ask, what did you take from the set? And I was like, I should have taken everything. My God, it was beautiful.
I thought it was creepy to hear, Jeffrey, that you only took Crispin Glover's life mask. I was worried about you. I was worried about you for a moment there.
Apparently it conveniently got dropped by Ken Chase, the original makeup designer.
Got dropped.
Got dropped.
Is that
was a photograph of me as George from the mantle. That's the only thing.
What is the thing you get signed the most? What is the thing somebody asks you to sign the most when they run into you at CollectorCon, or the picture? Is there a picture?
I sign flux capacitors. I sign DeLorean models. I sign full time machine DeLoreans, full size. I sign visors from the people's DeLorean. I sign photos of the Ying Pizza Hut foils, action figures.
Amazing. That's incredible. Gabe asked a question earlier. Billy Zane is in the first three movies. He is the first movie. He's one of Biff, and I think he's in the second movie too. He's one of Biff's henchmen. His
character's name is Matchstick.
Matchstick. There you go. So is that the experience that you look back on, because you've had to, what was it like working on Twilight Zone the movie? We do a Twilight Zone segment on our show every week.
So while we were shooting the fight, recreating the fight in the parking lot with Biff, we had downtime where they're doing coverage of Strickland in his office and various other things going on. So I would go hang out with Billy Zane.
Okay.
So I'm in Billy's trailer. I've been a DJ since I was in high school, and I had a mixtape with me of stuff I had, and I liked that Billy knew the lyrics to every punk song I had on my mixtape. I thought that was very cool, Billy. And at one point, Billy said, I think Leah was in love with Crispin because they were kind of inseparable and so on. And I, when I was up,
you could see that.
I was given like an hour of screen tests that have never been released to study. And Crispin and Leah are really working so beautifully together. Crispin invited Leah over to his apartment in Hollywood where they painted together. They created this painting of a volcano where they painted in character. The next day, Crispin brought it to the set and demanded of Zemeckis that it be on the wall of the McFly home. And Zemeckis said, no, I've got an art director who's already set this. No. And Crispin blew his top. Things like that. Ken Chase had Crispin fall asleep in his makeup and trimmed his hair while he was sleeping. Crispin woke up and blew his top. Things happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the interesting thing is it's become legend in Hollywood, but also the idea that you confirm the legends, and then you've also you stayed in touch with Crispin and tried. You know what I mean? Like it's a
he called.
It's a round thing.
I helped him out, and then that was it. I called him after he got his $750,000 settlement. And I said, "Do you want to take me to dinner or anything?" And he said,
"I gave you the tapes, buddy. I gave you the tapes."
He wouldn't take my call. And so finally, his outgoing machine message was "Hello," and so I imitated it once. I went "Hello" after the beep, and he picked it up laughing, thinking I was his friend Adam Parfrey or someone else. And when he found out it was me, you could hear him go, "Oh, oh, oh, oh." And I said, "It's Jeffrey. Crispin, you want to, debrief?"
I gave you all that stuff for the deposition. Everything worked out well for you.
Yeah. I'll call you back. So that was.
So maybe he wasn't. Wait a second. You were very nice earlier. You were like, he seemed to be a decent person. Maybe he wasn't, Jeffrey. Maybe he wasn't.
I thought he was a nice guy. Now he's putting down my acting. Well, if you put down the actor who steps in the 11th hour in your shoes without any rehearsal, you could have just taken the part, Crispin.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm going to stick with my original thought that he was.
Yes, I signed a lot of DVDs.
He got bumped. So you've also played Charlie Chaplin, right?
Charlot.
Yes, Charlie Chaplin. Do you have like do you like the past time? Do you like doing characters from the past that are like? Yeah, is that something that inspires you?
I was in between film and TV work, and my need for supporting my family was pretty great. And I got a call asking from an agent if I'd ever played Stanley Laurel and Hardy. The Oliver Hardy lost his partner at Universal Studios on the tour, and I said, I'll go up and audition. And I did it all wrong. But the Oliver Hardy actor, Beavis Faversham, he knew me from a production of Romeo and Juliet I had been Mercutio in. He said, "This guy has got talent," to the boss. "I'll train him." And within a couple of weeks, I was doing a passable Stanley Laurel. You're telling me. Anyway, and a year later, I started playing Charlie Chaplin because the Tunisian fellow that they had playing Charlie wasn't doing a very good job. And I helped motivate him getting his act together by being a good Charlie. And then a year later, I started playing Groucho Marx because the guy they had playing Groucho didn't look like or act enough like Groucho. So I, kind of inspired these guys to up their games while establishing myself as those characters. And then I started playing Larry Fine. "Hey, guys," in a Three Stooges team. And then, more lately, Mark Twain. So, I fell into these roles that I appreciate now more than ever, the genius of Charlie Chaplin, the genius of Stanley Laurel. He often wrote, developed the gags, would sometimes direct, and he was absolutely brilliant. And I learned of Charlie Chase and Harold Lloyd and Buster Keaton, and, even met Eleanor Keaton, Buster's widow, who showed me how she'd fold his hats for him. And, it opened these new horizons and opportunities for me that I cherish.
Do you find that
Diagnosis Murder? I brought to the set a Dick Van Dyke sweater. It had the Dick Van Dyke label in it, and found Dick's.
Dick Van Dyke, this right here?
And he and I are doing our Stan Laurel impressions because he was very close friends with Stanley Laurel.
What was it like working with him? What was he work like?
When he learned that I played Stan Laurel, it opened up this conversation. Whenever we weren't in front of the cameras, we were talking about his silent movie stuff he did on the comic with Carl Reiner directing, or he was talking about his first meeting with Buster Keaton, or his deep closeness with Stanley Laurel. It was just lovely. And I was like, "Dick, you've got to share these stories with the Sons of the Desert, the fan club." And when I was little, I wanted to grow up to be you. Yeah. And to that, he kind of went cross-eyed, like, "Huh?"
Well, yeah, but so Dick Van Dyke was a hero you met sometimes we always say don't ever meet your heroes because they'll disappoint, but Dick Van Dyke was not disappointing.
Not at all. He was very
excellent. That's all I want to hear because I think Dick Van Dyke's the national treasure. He's like one of those people that you you put him in something, and whatever you put him in, it's infinitely better. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
What else?
Okay,
so
JW, timeout.
go ahead.
Jeff,
Sorry.
how are we looking time wise? You got a few more minutes, or?
Oh, I'm getting old.
I'm talking your ear off, Jeffrey. I'm sorry. I'm just excited. I
Well,
love
we have
movies.
other people in the forum as well.
I love the engagement of the fans. That's why doing these anniversary shows.
Well, let's do
they're
some
not
questions.
paying any of us, I don't think, unless you're one of the top 4, very well. But we're there because we like engaging with the fans. We like having the family of Back to the Future actors, and it's good for our brand. Otherwise, we're doing the small shows where we're treated much better, where we get quality time with the fans. This was from Chiller, where Burton Gilliam for the first time joined us, and Johnny Green, skateboard guy in the green hat there. It's really thrilling to see James Tolkien and Francis Lee McCain, the support players who have these incredible amounts of talent and incredible resumes, be friends. James Tolkien has told me about being on the set of Serpico and being under the direction of Sidney Lumet, or playing Napoleon in Love and Death, Woody Allen film, or Francis Lee McCain being on Broadway in Woody Allen's Play It Again set. I, as an actor, cherish these other talents, and I cherish that I get to rub elbows with them every once in a while. And
why don't we get some questions from some of the fans, like Joe was saying? Good idea.
Well, we have a forum here as well with Kyle and obviously Jerry. I mean, I'm going to bring something up real fast. I mean, Jeffrey's not a stranger to the network. He was on our Christmas specials, and I mean, his lovely lady beside him in that particular picture
with David Madison. Yes,
yeah, David Madison and
that guy
Tiffany,
named Brian O'Halloran, and
Scott Chiappo, and then some long-haired hippie freak Joe Ridgely, Jim Crut. But yeah, he's no stranger to the network. I'm trying to wait. Here's my favorite one. Jeff, do you remember that?
I could read your mind. You were selling subscriptions to get yourself through high school.
Fair enough. One of the favorite things I love talking to Jeffrey about is his wonderful stories about the couple of Beatles flicks.
Oh yes, I came this close to working with the Beatles. One of my first gigs, my parents didn't want me to be an actor, but out of high school, they weren't going to tell me what to do. So I signed up to be in these group scenes, extra waiver work. And one of the first ones I worked on was I Want to Hold Your Hand, that Zemeckis directed. And I was a Ringo fan outside the Beatles hotel in it was a Universal backlot. It was over 100-degree day, and it's supposed to be January in New York outside the Beatles hotel. So all the extras are bundled up, and they were dropping like flies from heat frustration. It was just terrible. And Zemeckis, I don't know why he didn't direct that scene in particular. He brought in his friend, this up-and-comer Steven Spielberg, to direct us, and then later on, of course, working with Wendy Jo Sperber, God bless her, who was the lead in that film. So I worked on that Beatles film, and then another one that I could have gone union on because I did some dance moves in it. I'm in 4 scenes of Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the movie. I play Strawberry Fields' brother in the scene with the hot air balloon where they're going to whatever land they're going to. And I get brainwashed by Alice Cooper. And I'm one of those brainwashed Boy Scouts that Steve Martin sends over to Alice Cooper's character. And for it's a 3-day shoot. The first couple days, Alice Cooper is being broadcast up on the screen, and there are a couple dancers on either side. And there was a very pretty blonde dancer that I asserted myself. I was 18, and attracted to her. And by the second day, we were having lunch together across the street from MGM. She bought me a beer. I remember it. Hey, you can't be drinking beer until you're 21 in California. But nonetheless, the third day, I see Cheryl, the blonde dancer, and I go up to her and she goes, "Oh, Jeffrey, 7:30 in the morning. Jeffrey, I want you to meet my husband, Alice." I was like, "Oh, nice to meet you, Mr. Hughes. I've never touched her." Anyway, so they are still together. They are still together. I remember the first day of shooting, I smelled pot. My 17-year-old nose was like, "That's pot," on the soundstage. I followed my nose and came to Barry Gibb. I was like, "You smoking pot this early in the morning?" He goes, "Yeah, you want to try it and hear it?" "Oh, sure."
If you've seen the movie, you know that they were smoking a lot of pot in that movie.
I didn't like it. Barry says that's how you like to mix our pot with tobacco in the UK. I was like, "You guys are crazy."
What? No.
And Robin Gibb came over and said, "Barry, we're #1 on the Billboard charts," and I was the first to congratulate them on their new album hitting #1. Lots of adventures on Sgt. Pepper's.
What about you, Kyle? What do you got?
There you go, Kyle.
I was going to ask him about the Beatles stuff, but
I didn't know that.
Joe ruined it.
And then I believe I read something about Sherlock Holmes part or something coming up.
Yeah, I up in the Sierra foothills where I live, there's a town called Jackson that has the 221B Baker Street West. It's an environment that's dedicated to Sherlock Holmes studies, but it's also a performance space and a shooting space, a studio and all. And it got evicted unceremoniously a year before last. And I play Professor Moriarty in a new Sherlock Holmes story called Sherlock Holmes and the True Believer as a fundraiser film for this place because they got a new digs, but they have to upgrade it, and it's going to cost over $600,000 to do it. And it's very worthy and lovely people. And the film came out beautiful. I get to kidnap Santa Claus in it.
Joe, you're going to be in this movie? Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was a bad joke. That was a bad joke. Jerry, what about you before we lose Jeffrey?
I was pretty interested in all the Pale Rider stuff, but I'm also interested in Twilight Zone too.
Yeah, I 3 months after the terrible accident on the Landis segment, my agent called me and said, Spielberg wants to finish the film. He's got all the other directors in line and pre-production has been going on. And I thought, that's terrible taste, but I need the work because I love the Mad Max movies, Road Warrior, and my audition was for George Miller, the director of those. And I went in, and it was George's first Hollywood film, pretty much. And he loved being on the Warner Brothers set. We got along famously. I told a couple jokes that made them laugh. And the next thing I know, I'm on the airplane sitting across from John Lithgow on the remake of Nightmare at 30,000 Feet. Now, at the Fan Con in New Orleans at the beginning of the year, I finally met William Shatner. And I said, to break the ice, Mr. Shatner, I'm in the remake of your famous Twilight Zone episode. And he goes, I was supposed to be in that. I had some sort of conflict come up and I couldn't do it. But boy, I wanted to. And that really broke the ice. And I talked, or I pretty much let William Shatner talk for the next 20 minutes. He loved to talk. And it was quite lovely. John Lithgow was just a gem. And he loved, John's a big man. And he was weaned on stage. And when he does film, he's always told to bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. But George was telling him to go the opposite direction. No, I want it bigger, bigger, bigger. And John loved that. And
it's the best part of the Twilight Zone movie. That's the terror Nightmare at 20,000 Feet is the best of the newfangled pieces.
I was looking at my script just a couple weeks ago, and it was originally going to be the second episode. And I think they realized this was the more powerful one to end on. And so they moved it to the fourth segment.
When you say that there was like, what was the feeling like after the Vic Morrow tragedy, after the Landis segment? Like, what was What was the feeling in Hollywood?
The
It was
entire landscape of Hollywood was in shock. Everyone was in shock and depressed and upset and pissed.
So if people don't know, basically what happened was Vic Morrow, who's a very gifted actor, and John Landis and him were shooting a segment where there was a helicopter accident where Vic Morrow and 2 kids that were acting in the scene got killed. John Landis basically
3 hours of the morning and
just bad juju and just bad,
more fireworks. He wanted more fireworks, and the helicopter got hit by some of those fireworks and came down and decapitated the kids.
That is just a one of the Hollywood tragedies, and Landis faced charges.
Thanks, JW. The whole showdown.
I didn't mean to, but we're talking about it.
Right?
To be honest, wait. To be fair, Jeffrey,
someone else sees it.
Jeffrey said it first.
I did.
I was just
in
case people had a question.
But you took it and you dragged it.
Well, I took it and just told the story. What if people had questions? Jeffrey, I've a question about something recent. You're part of this movie that's come out this year that's really quite powerful called No Address.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Siblings.
No.
Independent film that's just a dark comedy, dark. No Address is very powerful, yes.
Basically about homelessness and how people are treated homeless in San Francisco, right?
The film was kind of already in the can, and then they realized they needed to flesh out some things and make it longer, etc. And so the casting director called me up and said, I think I've got this part for you in a scene with Billy Baldwin and Kristen Loken. I think I'm saying her name right.
Christiana Loken.
Christiana Loken from Terminator 3, and a wonderful young actor who's playing their son too. And I'm sort of the catalyst in the destruction of their lives. In that they've come to a motel. I keep running Billy's character's credit card. It keeps getting declined, and she finally has a card that'll work and is pissed at him, and he goes out and gets drunk, and she won't let him in, and he's waking up all my tenants at this motel that I'm running, and so I have to call the cops on them, and I have them arrested, and it ruins their life.
But it's doing very well, and it's very highly rated, and I just want to congratulate you on it.
The producers are taking 50% of all the profits of this movie and giving them to charities supporting the homeless and helping raise awareness for homelessness.
That's why I wanted to bring it up, because I know it's one of the more important movies. Raven has a really interesting comment about. I don't want to bring it down though, so don't do it. Don't show that one. Lithgow over Shatner. Laugh out loud. In my opinion, I think Lithgow. I think Shatner's appropriately touted for that episode. This has been a great show. Thank you, Raven.
Thank you, Raven.
Thank you, Raven.
Yeah, I do a lot of charity work. My wife and I produced a Back to the Future themed cruise in 2015, one of the anniversary years, to raise money and awareness for Parkinson's. It's all about Mike. And we've done numerous charities. The first, We're Going Back, which brought fans from around the world to all the shooting locations of the Back to the Future movies. And then it ended with a giant Enchantment Under the Sea dance. You even got to hoverboard at that one. The original stunt coordinator brought cranes in with hoverboards on wires, and you could hoverboard and take pictures. And if you knew someone who was
Jeffrey, everybody could hoverboard. Everybody,
if you
big
were
people could hoverboard. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. And then the Back to the Future Part 3, there's a celebration that goes on up here in the Gold Country where they shot it near Sonora, Jamestown. It was the first one that Terry and Oliver Holler did, who've taken their DeLorean time machine and raised over $1 million for the charity. They produced it. It was called Back to 1885. It's been reimagined as Return to Hill Valley, and that's going to happen at the end of September.
That's amazing.
And, go to returntohillvalley.com or .org and come join the fun there.
Because we're in the 40th anniversary of it's Back to the Future's 40th anniversary year. So everybody's going to be talking about the trilogy. Do we still have time for more questions, or you're getting old? You said, do you have more time or?
My mom said she's older than him. That's what my mom said. She wrote it to me on the slide.
But it's been we want to make sure. So you're only going to be at this event in Orlando for one day.
Yeah,
right.
It just so happens my father-in-law has come in town from South America to adopt his new daughters, and I got to get to Florida, and the owner of this show has agreed to bring me in for this one-day event. You saw it there briefly, Orlando at the toy show on International Avenue there at the Wyndham, and I'll be there signing whatever you bring in or signing photos. I'm going to have discounted prices than the fan cons, so it'll be a win-win, and I'll have more stories. If you haven't gotten enough from this show,
well,
I'll keep talking.
We would, what do you have coming up aside from No Address, which is out, and that's playing around the country? You said Siblings is another thing you got coming up.
Is doing the festival rounds. It's a very dark comedy about a very badly behaved father of some very badly behaved brothers and sisters, and it's hilarious. I also have a couple of projects that are in development that I can't talk about, but I'm very excited about. I'm also in the middle of shooting a fan film that's a mashup of Close Encounters, Men in Black, Back to the Future, and American Graffiti, and it's called Back to Graffiti. And it's an opportunity for this director to show that he can do special effects. He comes from the graphics world, is special effects and graphics, and he Rolf Moore has shot most of this film, and we just have this one lap on Close Encounters of the Third Kind. We still have to shoot my character coming back from the alien spacecraft. So it's a really fun film that he will be probably releasing as soon as we finish it, which will be before the end of this year.
Now, do you have a website, or do you have a way, like, say people, because when people watch our show, they tend to get attached to the people who come and talk with us. So where can people find you?
I can be reached.
Not alienish. It's more just a nice attachment.
Yes, I have a shop. If you can't make it to any of my
home address,
social
security number.
If you or you have a fan that you know that wants a signed picture, go to my shop at jeffreyweissman.com. Pretty easy to navigate. You can read more stories about all the different projects. I worked on some other really fun projects like Scarecrow and Mrs. King and The Man Show and Max Headroom and so on and so forth. I'm Screech's guru on Saved by the Bell, the high geek.
Yes, we are always in lucky to have.
I wanted to talk about Dustin Diamond and everything. Okay, we're gonna have to have you on again, Jeffrey.
Well, we might have to have you on again.
Scratch the surface of your time on Heathers either.
Oh yeah, well I did voices on Heathers. I was in a loop group with Lorraine Newman's sister Tracy Newman, Archie Hahn, all these folks from the Groundlings and Second City, Christopher Guest's brother, Nicholas Guest, really great talent. We were led by Lee French from the Smothers Brothers show and the committee. We'd see the voices of people in scenes that were talking, but were not on mic, and we'd put words in their mouths and be turned down. So films like Loverboy and Heathers and TV shows and such.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Well, thank you for joining us. It was a blast going through urban legends, and then also like just learning different things about. Also, I'm super excited to see like the Moriarty movie and the Back to Graffiti. You know what I mean? Like these sound amazing. These sound like a lot of fun. We should totally have him on again. Yes, as Raven, and we will. Like the next time you come up with something where you want to talk about it, especially if you have like a cons coming up or anything with charity work, we are all about.
I will definitely give you a heads up. I'll give Joe a heads up and JW Kyle Slackjaw Slapjaw?
Thank you. It's Jerry. It's Jerry, but he's in the band Slapjaw. It goes.
Oh, I got you now.
We got to explain that. Jeffrey, we have to explain that Jerry has a very popular band called Slapjaw.
Well,
they do.
I don't know if he does.
Well, they went viral on TikTok with over 1 million views.
Yeah, Jerry's an incredible guitarist, and
Kyle, you're from
Sweet Translucent Dreams. He's part of a Rocky Horror Shadowcast.
Nice.
So
if I need,
we have creatives here.
I'm playing. Can you help me out, Jerry?
Absolutely.
Right on.
Well,
You're surrounded by creatives, Jeffrey.
You mentioned Second City training. I've trained with Chris Barnes, so part of the original Barons Barracudas from Second City. So where the Indie Escape Network, I found Joe found me and brought me in, and then I brought Kyle and I brought Jerry in, and Jerry I went to high school with, but we weren't friends in high school, and now we're on every Tuesday night talking about our lives. But you, sir, are invited back anytime you want to come on, and anytime you want to come on and talk to us. Thank you for being so engaging and warm and just an amazing character. I appreciate you.
And just for a last word, because there was a question from Raven about stage fright. I just want you to know that if you just reframe that you realize you get the butterflies in your stomach, you've got stage fright because you care. And
it's the nerves,
yeah, if it's a nerve thing, and you're also accessing the creative universe, which is a new electrical impulse that is going and looking for a place to ground. And as soon as you take the first dance move or say the first line, that will find a channel for that energy
goes out
to go through you.
It's very similar to playing shows.
That's
on
right.
Stage.
Same thing with
very
music.
similar. I know that feeling well.
And for critics, you just have to let it bounce off you. Don't let it get under your skin. Things change. Don't. If it's constructive criticism, take it. If it's criticism that's blatantly just
toxic,
toxic.
Just put
it get to you.
Put it in a giant thing that you hang from the ceiling for 8 hours a day during a film shoot.
Crispin's now criticizing the actor who played George. I don't think he did a good job. I was like, come on, Crispin.
Come on, man. Leave our Jeffrey Weissman alone.
No, wait a minute. Can I do the Crispin dance from Friday the 13th? Or
I love it when he gets killed on Friday the 13th. That's an amazing kill.
What's the computer say?
That's an incredible
there's
kill.
No computer. Yeah, well, there's no Betty either.
Thank you for having me on, gentlemen.
Oh, Jeffrey, thank you so much. And again, last call. You got your big thing coming up on June 14th. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. We appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Have a great night.
You're back.
No, I brought him back just for a second because I.
Okay, are we good? Is he okay? He was
amazing. Did I tell you guys he was an amazing guest?
Yeah, no, he was everything as advertised and more. And I'm fascinated because all I want to do now is play Mark Twain or Chaplin or learn from him how to play Mark Twain or Chapman.
Or Laurel and Hardy.
Laurel and Hardy. Oh my God, that would be incredible. So we're really long. We're 1:13. Do we want to do at least the 2 segments we normally do? A quick, Joe, while you're here, yes. It came from Jerry's basement. Quick, it's really easy. This one, Jerry. What are we talking about tonight? We want to make sure that Jeffrey gets some money.
Put it up again.
Twilight Zone the movie. Where is it at, Jerry?
This is on big bubble VHS.
Yes, that is a bubble Warner Brothers clamshell, baby. Where can people find it, Jerry?
This is on Tubi.
And so, like Jeffrey was saying, it is 3 of the episodes taken from the past and brought to the forward. John Lithgow gets a big one, but also Catherine Watterson does one of the great ones. That's a great segment with the little boy who can control the entire world, and she's a teacher that's brought in to take care of them. But it's really good. I think the Lithgow one is by far the one with Jeffrey in it was by far the best of the best. And then really quick Twilight Zone jump before we end for the night. This week's episode, Rip Van Winkle Caper. I want to talk about this really quick. So opening things, introducing 4 experts in the questionable art of crime. Mr. Farewell, expert on noxious gases, former professor with a doctorate in both chemistry and physics. Mr. Irby, expert in mechanical engineering. Mr. Brooks, expert in the use of firearms and other weaponry. And Mr. De Cruz, expert in demolition and various forms of destruction. Time is now, and the place is a mountain cave in Death Valley, USA. In just a moment, these 4 men will utilize the service of a truck placed in Cosmoline, loaded with hot ice, cooled off by the century of sleep, and then take a drive into the Twilight Zone. So basically, the episode is these 4 guys rob Fort Knox. By the way, Joe, look at this cool artwork for this episode. Somebody made this. It's really nice. I am hoping that the person
that's
who made it,
artwork from the episode?
No, that's somebody made that and put it on the internet. And I was like, I hope I can find more of them. But this episode is basically these 4 guys, and they rob Fort Knox, and then they're going to go to sleep in these little coffins for 100 years, and then come out of the desert rich and nobody none the wiser. One guy dies early when his case is broken by a rock. And then the others set forth on a treasure of the Sierra Madre type, we're just going to kill each other. And then one, Mr. De Cruz, who's the guy here to your right, takes advantage of Mr. Fair. Oh my God, this guy is the worst. At some point, Mr. Farewell, who's the minds of the operation, is breaking down, and he's selling him drinks of water for gold bars. And so they're traveling. He's brutal. He's awful. And he's like, it may turn tomorrow. And eventually ends with, basically doing all kinds of stuff. And eventually the older man kills him with a gold bar because he deserves it. He's actually the most noxious person on the Twilight Zone since the guy that sold the tonic in that one episode.
Explain this to me. So is the gold worth more than the water, or vice versa?
Well, they think it is. So that's where the twist of the episode is. When the old man kills the guy, and they only have the 1 bar. They only have a few bars left. He runs into people from the future, 100 years in the future, and the guy's like, he tried to offer me this gold bar to get a ride to town. And, and the lady's like, gold, we don't use that for money anymore. But didn't they use that in the past? And he's like, yeah, until we find out how to manufacture it. And he throws the bar into the sand. And so it's just this really fun episode, but also just horrible. Like, De Cruz is a terror. He runs one guy down with a truck, and then he systematically tries to steal the gold from the other guy because the other guy needs water.
I love it though. Day 2, now it's 2 bars.
Day 2, it's now 2 bars for a sip of water.
He takes a drink and he's like,
and then the gold's useless. So the gold is useless. That's the but look at the futurism. Like the car the people are driving is some of the futurism stuff on the Twilight Zone is so good. And this is essentially a bank heist movie where it's Reservoir Dogs. They're killing each other one after the other.
It's the greed.
It's stuff that's been done 100 times since. And the final closing narration is the amazing Rod Serling. He comes in with the last of our 4 Rip Van Winkles, who all died precisely the way they lived, chasing an idiot across the sand to wind up bleached dry in the hot sun as so much desert flotsam, worthless as the gold bullion they built a shrine to. Tonight's lesson in the Twilight Zone. Now, here's the fascinating thing, Joe, and this is something I was telling Jerry about beforehand. This guy, this scientist, builds a sleep system. Look at it. There's gases There's a chamber. They sleep for 100 years, Joe. Let me ask you a question. How valuable is gold, Joe, when you have a sleep system that allows you to skip 100 years?
Complete with a red lever and a green button.
It's got a red lever and a green button, and everything works. And you just got to make sure there's no rocks falling. But it's so funny to me because
isn't that how they space travel?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's the guy thinks bullion is where he crafts a giant plot to steal money from Fort Knox, and he still has the ability to create boxes that keep people alive for 100 years. Anyway, I just found that fascinating. And then next week's episode, this is episode 24 of season 2. We only have 4 episodes left of season 2, kids.
Getting there.
Next week's episode is called The Silence. I've seen this one recently. It is about a curmudgeonly guy at a club that bets a guy he can't talk for a year. And it's just a ridiculous episode.
Kyle, you want to answer that?
Kyle?
What?
Huh? A couple things. A couple of.
I wasn't sleeping.
Kyle's always sleeping
actually,
during the Twilight Zone.
I was on JeffreyWeissman.com to see what he has for sale in his shop.
There you go. We want to promote that. JeffreyWeissman.com. A couple things. If you're a Superman fan, needs to be brought out. Tickets go on sale tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. or 9 a.m. Eastern, so 9 a.m. Western. It could be, it's either 9 a.m. or 12. Just so you know, for July 11th, I already have my tickets for July 8th. I'm going to the Amazon screening in IMAX.
So posted about that.
I'm a happy boy. Also, this week, big movie. Now, Lilo and Stitch has dominated the box office for the last 3 weeks. It all ends Thursday.
Yep.
Because How to Train Your Dragon's coming. It's getting great reviews, to good to great reviews, including most saying that it's tried and true to the original. We also have Materialist opening Friday, which is Dakota Johnson, Pedro Pascal, and Chris Evans. Romantic comedy, a little sub thing to try to get women to the theaters. And then it has to be said, if you're looking around this week and you need something to take your dad to on Sunday, playing all over the country this week is this gem of a movie. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It's playing all over the country for Father's Day. And you can see your Indy and his dad take on Nazis. And what a great show. Jerry, what do you got coming up, my friend?
July 19th, V-Spot, Scranton.
I believe I have that right here.
That's it.
You got a lot of people on this bill. Kyle Defina, what do you got going on, my friend?
This Saturday, I got Rocky Horror at the Emmaus Theater.
Yep.
And
Hold on.
next.
I'm sorry. I know I have it. I have it for you right here. Emmaus.
And then next Saturday, well, that's Pocono.
That's the Pocono one. I'm sorry. You didn't.
21st.
You only sent one though, right?
I did only send the one.
Okay. I thought I missed something, but okay. So this is Saturday the 21st at Pocono Cinema.
I like the toilet
Sweet,
paper roll.
Sweet Translucent Dreams, Shadowcast. Joe, what do we got coming up?
Jerry, you got to come out to a show, Jerry, because that's an actual scene.
That's an actual. Yeah.
Flying.
Thought it was the G-spot. I never would have found it. Oh, Ken. Ken, it's the V-spot, by the way. Anyway,
it would have been even funny.
It should have been funny. Joe, we also have a big show coming up from our good friend Gabe coming up this week. What do you know about this week? Frankie G on Gabe's show on Wednesday night, Symbolistic Cynicism.
Tomorrow night, I'm absolutely looking forward to it. Look at the credentials on this guy.
Yeah, this guy's been in a lot of stuff.
Tune in.
He's been both a good guy and a bad guy in a lot of things. And Joe,
even better though, next week on your show, were you going to do that, or am I going to do that?
No, you can do that. You I think it's exciting. I'm happy we're going to be having somebody on that I really enjoy. So
we're gonna have Scott Schiaffo from Clerks and Clerks 3,
and his new band,
and a number of other movies. And no, it's not a new band.
Well, no, it's his old band, but they're making new releases though, right?
Correct, but they've been around since Jerry's band's been around. Like
they've worked a long time together. Yeah.
Francis Fell. So
Francis Fell, which is really cool.
We're gonna have Scott Schiaffo again from Clerks fame, and he's
Awesome.
a musician that's done amazing work on movies.
And you've had him on David Madison's show where
he's a co-host of ours.
Right, and he played music on that show as sometimes we would just kind of like start playing, which I think is amazing. Are you coming back next week too?
If I book somebody, I'm probably going to be there.
Okay, I was just wondering if you have the feel for it, because I know you're getting your taste back. You know what I mean? It's
it's been a long time, man.
I know it has. Well, we love having you.
I appreciate you having me and letting me play in your sandbox again. I mean,
our sandbox is pretty good. I'm not going to lie. It's a pretty good sandbox.
It's stellar. Yeah,
it's a fun sandbox. Also, so you can find all of us online on the interwebs. Me, you can find JW the Movie Guy, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, X, whatever they're calling it today. You can
please like and follow the Indie Escape Network on all our platforms.
Yes, and find content like this. Find content like Gabe doing his show tomorrow night with good guests. And then next week we're finishing up a 1-2 punch Mission Impossible on Generation Movie. We're doing both the final we're doing Dead Reckoning and the Final Reckoning.
Doing both of them. Okay,
both
you guys were undecided last night.
We were undecided last night, but we've made a decision. We're going to go both because we want to have some time to do maybe some Superman tie-ins. So we might want to be able to do Superman the movie and Superman 2 in the next couple of weeks. Thank you for joining us tonight.
I'm sorry. No, stop.
Oh, God.
Audience. Ken, Raven, Lizzie Kitty, everybody. Thank you for joining us on a weekly basis. We greatly appreciate it.
We do appreciate it.
And the support.
And Missy, too. Don't forget Missy. Missy's always...
Missy, too.
Missy, Raven,
Missy
everybody.
And Cindy.
Yes. And Cindy Kamora. Yes.
Well, Cindy, yeah. I saw her name.
She hides in the background, but she
does have to come because she's Jerry's mom. But
there she is.
She's awesome. She's awesome when she does come. We appreciate her.
But thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the network and being supportive.
We appreciate all of you. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see everybody next week with Scott Schiaffo and Francis Fell. And have a great night. Go see some movies. Got some things opening. How to Train Your Dragon about to eat Stitch. Should be fun. Bye. Have a good night. Oh, wait. I'm ending. Hold on. It's working. Maybe. Now it's working.